A surprise visit. A HoodlumScrafty X Speqtor fan fiction by Cat Pickles 333. Narrated by the lovely Miss Fushi. Check her out via the links below. #Spoodlum.
Brandon's phone buzzed loudly in the silence of his lonely room. He lazily reached over to it, expecting the notification to be nothing important. No more than someone on Twitter or another mindless comment left on a video. However, much to his surprise, it was a text message. Even more surprising was that it was a text from someone he actually enjoyed talking to. He smiled. What did that man have to say now? Brandon quickly unlocked his phone and checked the message.
Dude, they made you so emo. That fits you perfectly.
Oh. What I don't understand is why it's like, surprise, I'm visiting you. Today, I came all the way from fucking Scotland.
Yeah, just, you could have plans I don't know about, but...
It's all about love, man.
Hell yeah, dude.
Love is spontaneous. There are no plans.
You're right. Surprise! I'm visiting you soon. And by soon I mean today. Come pick me up at the airport at 7:30. Can't wait to see you. P.S. Don't be late.
A dazed smile crossed his lips. How nice that he'd be getting a visit. And it made it even nicer to think of who would be visiting. Then it hit him. He would be getting that visit today. His eyes widened in shock and surprise.
I gotta clean,
he mumbled to himself, noting how messy his room was. With that, he set about his work, cleaning anything and everything in his bedroom. The last time he had cleaned this thoroughly was, well, never. Once he deemed his room sufficiently sanitary, he stretched and smiled. There's no way this could end up badly. He picked up his phone and noticed that he had missed quite a few messages, and even a couple phone calls. He also noted that they were all from the same person.
Oh, what could he want now?
He thought to himself as he went to check the messages. Before he read a single word, though, he noticed the time. 8:38.
Oh, shit!
What up?
He said, realizing how late he was. He quickly typed in,
I'm on my way.
As he grabbed his keys and drove to the airport. When he finally arrived at the airport, he parked in the first spot he found and ran inside as fast as he could. He searched the area, quickly scanning every face to find the one he had been looking for. Before he found it, however, someone had found him.
Can you drive?
Yes, I can drive.
That's wild. Dude, what the fuck?
A familiar voice said as a warm hand found its way to Brandon's shoulder. Brandon tensed up at the unexpected touch and scolding tone.
You think it's funny just to let me sit in an airport for an hour before you even decide to leave your house?
I'm so sorry, man.
Brandon said, quickly turning to face the man that was talking to him.
I was cleaning, and I didn't hear my phone, and I just lost track of time, and I'm sorry.
He explained, avoiding the piercing blue eyes that gazed through him. The other man sighed.
Fine. Let's just head to your house. I'm going to go crazy if I'm stuck here any longer.
Yeah, of course.
Brandon mumbled, violently scolding himself mentally.
Let's go.
With that, the two walked out to Brandon's car in painful silence. The silence only seemed to grow thicker and more uncomfortable as the trip home progressed. After what seemed like an eternity of silence, Brandon finally spoke up.
So, how's Scotland?
As soon as the words had left his lips, his mind was increasingly scolding and critical of his choice of question. Really? How's Scotland? That's the best you can think of? As his mind raced and raced, he used every bit of self-control he had to keep his hands on the wheel and not give himself the most intense facepalm in the history of time.
Same as always.
The other replied. His voice was tinged with irritation, and though he didn't necessarily want to, he couldn't stop himself from trying to continue the odd attempt at conversation. Sure, he was still mad, but he couldn't act that way around Brandon.
How's Kansas?
A small smile crossed Brandon's lips when he finally heard the response. Maybe his question wasn't the stupidest thing ever said.
The same. Nothing ever goes on here.
Another moment of silence ensued, but it was nowhere near as uncomfortable as the times prior. Brandon took a deep breath and spouted another apology before he could stop himself.
I'm so sorry about not being on time, Callum. I really am.
Callum sighed deeply.
It's whatever. At least you didn't take 2 hours, right?
Nervous laughter came from both men and began to fill the car. When it died down, the painful silence had returned. This time, it was too much for Brandon to handle. No matter how hard he tried to ignore the knots in his stomach and focus on driving, he just couldn't. His mind was racing once again. Half of it was flooded and deafened by the silence, and the other was rattling with ways to try to not think of it. Before he could stop himself, he was lighting a cigarette and taking a deep drag. He felt the smoke fill his lungs and start to melt his stress away. When he exhaled, it felt like he was breathing out not only smoke, but his troubles as well. With so emo.
Puff, puff,
So
pass.
Yo, hit this, bruh.
With puff after puff of smoke, his worries burned away like the end of the cigarette. The sense slipped away from him, and before he knew it, they were at his house.
And we're here.
He said softly. Callum nodded and got out of the car. Brandon, however, stayed in his seat for a moment.
All right, Brandon.
He mumbled to himself.
Let's not make ourselves look like an ass again. Let's take it easy this time. We have to tell him that...
His self-given pep talk was interrupted by Callum, who was now waiting at the door of his house.
You coming anytime soon?
He called out.
Or are you just gonna make me wait an hour again?
Oh, wrecked.
Fucking body, dude. Jesus.
The words were joking and playful, but his tone of voice suggested otherwise.
Sorry, coming.
Brandon shouted to Callum, quickly jumping out of the car and running up to unlock the door. Once they were both inside, Callum put his suitcase aside and sat on the couch. He took a deep breath and put his hands in his face. Or his face in his hands.
Whoa, you alright, Callum?
Brandon asked worriedly. He took a step closer, not knowing completely the situation at hand.
Yeah.
Callum said, looking up once again.
Today's just been a bit crazy.
I suppose.
Brandon said, his voice trailing off, noting that Callum's mood hadn't seemed to improve. He continued.
You need a hug?
He asked.
What? Are you fucking gay? I could not do it all at once. Are you fucking gay? That's the best part of the whole thing. What are you fucking gay? Perfect.
Maybe.
Brandon mumbled. Part of him wanted these words to be a joke, and the other part of him... and the other part of him knew quite well that they weren't. Before he could correct himself or try desperately to brush it off as a joke, Callum had stood up and pulled him into a tight hug. After the initial moment of silence, Brandon wrapped his arms around Callum tightly and pressed his face into his chest. He would never dare to say it. He barely even wanted to think it, but he had wished for a moment like this. A moment alone with Callum, a moment spent so close to him. Brandon took a deep breath and contemplated saying everything that was on his mind. He wanted to confess everything he had felt for so long. When he opened his mouth to speak, though, the words got caught in his throat. He didn't let it bother him, however, and he hugged Callum more tightly. The right time would come soon, he was sure of it. After quite a while, the two broke the hug. Immediately after, they began to drift back together. They leaned against each other, enjoying closeness.
So...
Brandon said after a short moment.
What now?
I would never say this. Should we play some Pokemon?
Callum asked.
Or I should have guessed that's what you'd say.
Brandon said, smiling.
Sure, that sounds fun.
As they were taking a moment to put together teams, Brandon had an idea. He knew exactly how to tell Callum how he felt. I know where this is going.
I have no idea.
He began re-nicknaming Pokemon after Pokemon, and just before the battle started, he double-checked just to make sure they were all in the correct order. As the battle started, Callum sent out Ducklet. The Ducklet.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Brandon took a deep breath and sent out his first Pokemon, a Togepi named Hay. Hopefully Callum would catch on to his naming scheme. After a while of little bits of damage going back and forth and continual healing, Togepi got a lucky metronome and made Ducklet faint with a chance thunder.
Ducklet, no.
Yo, the feeling.
Feels.
Callum said over dramatically. They both laughed and the battle went back into full swing. Callum sent out Make-A-Burger, the Barboach, against the low-health Togepi and took it out with his first attack.
That's wild. They paid attention to, like, my actual nicknames. Crazy.
Oh, yeah, no, right? Oh, dude, come on. He did nothing.
Brandon said, trying to sound disappointed. In reality, he was excited to send out the next Pokemon. If they stayed even like this, his message would be easy to get across. He sent out the next Pokemon in line, a Scrafty named Callum. After a few dragon dances and a boosted earthquake later, Make-A-Burger had taken down his second opponent. Brandon once again pretended to act as if he was opposed to his defeat as he sent out his third Pokemon, a Chandler named I.
Really?
Callum said.
I know he's your mascot and all, but why are you sending a fire type out against a Barboach?
It's part of a plan.
Brandon explained. Callum, though still not understanding this plan, decided that it was a good enough answer and the battle continued. Even with the type disadvantage, I, the Chandler, managed to take out Make-A-Burger with the burn from a Will-O-Wisp and a few Shadow Balls. All the while, the two bickered playfully, thoroughly enjoying the battle. Callum sent out Drillher, the Drillbur.
Hell yeah, dude, that's such a good name.
It's beautiful. And the battle continued with vigor. It should be called Drill Him because of this story.
Crazy.
Drillher took out I, so Brandon sent out Really, the Houndoom without hesitation. Drillher took out the Houndoom as well, capitalizing on the type advantage. As Brandon sent out Like, the Love Disc, he hoped Callum was catching on. Or, if he hadn't yet, that this cheesy and cliché idea of the love disc would make him figure it out. Like he took out the weakened Drillher, easily, Callum sent out Join, the Torterra. This is it, Brandon thought. Join will take out the love disc, and then there's only one left. I hope he's figured it out. During his inner monologue, Join easily defeated the love disc, just as he had predicted.
No, it's 3-1.
Callum said, smirking.
How's that plan of yours working out for you now?
It's not finished just yet.
Brandon replied, his hand quivering slightly as he selected his final Pokemon.
This last Mon will hopefully bring it all together. I wanted it to sound epic.
Hey Callum, I Really and Like had all come and gone, leaving only one Pokemon left. As his last Pokemon, a Sudowoodo named You, landed on the field, Brandon watched Callum intently, waiting to see if he'd caught on. Callum's expression turned into one of thoughtfulness for a moment. Then it hit him. His eyes opened wide and he opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Brandon blushed and avoided the other's gaze. He didn't notice Callum creeping closer and closer until their faces were nearly touching.
You should have said something sooner.
He whispered.
Oh fuck, that wasn't a whisper.
Oh shit.
You should have said something sooner.
He whispered. Brandon's eyes widened in surprise and he tried to reply, but he was cut off by Callum's lips pressing against his own. At first, the kiss was clumsy and uncoordinated, but once the nervousness and tension began to fade, it grew more and more passionate. Both Callum and Brandon tried as hard as possible to convey their long-standing feelings that had been unrequited until this very moment. When the kiss was finally broken, they were both left breathless and slightly in shock. Neither could have ever imagined that the other felt that same way. Both thought that they should say something, but almost simultaneously decided that another kiss would say it better than any combination of any words and any language. Once the second rush of affectionate kisses had died down, the two sat in a comfortable silence with their arms still wrapped around each other. Warm smiles across both of their faces and their cheeks were still blushing a deep red. After a while, they began to feel tired, likely as a result of the emotional roller coaster that they had just been on. Callum tried and failed to stifle a yawn, and Brandon yawned in return.
You tired?
Brandon asked softly. Callum nodded.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
You got that right.
Brandon said with a smile.
Let's go to bed.
Where am I sleeping tonight?
Callum asked.
My bed, it has enough room for both of us.
Goals? I wish I had a bed. That's
Yo,
enough for
goals?
people.
Brandon said with a smile.
As long as we snuggle up close, that is.
Lit. Because I would just say lit.
Yo, same.
Sounds good to me.
Callum said, smiling back. He leaned in and gave Brandon a quick peck on the forehead. They walked to Brandon's room, hand in hand, and quickly got ready for bed.
How exactly are we going to do this?
Brandon asked, looking at his bed.
What do you mean? Have you ever snuggled anyone before? You could have said cuddled, like snuggle is such a weird word.
Snuggle is like so cringy.
I know. Snuggles you X3.
Snuggles you.
Callum asked jokingly.
Well, I have, but it's,
Brandon stuttered, trying to explain his prior statement. Callum continued.
Just calm down, man.
Callum said, putting his arm around Brandon's shoulders.
Here.
Callum continued.
You just lay down.
Brandon did as he was told and laid on his bed. Callum quickly laid next to him.
What the fuck? Why do I get the gay parts? Hello?
This whole thing is gay.
No, but like... Oh, come on.
Callum said.
Let me spoon you. It's better than whatever this is.
Brandon laughed and rolled onto his side. He felt Callum's arms wrap around him and snuggled into him. He smiled and let his eyes drift shut.
I love you.
He whispered. Callum squeezed him tighter and whispered back.
Fuck. I love you too.
Oh my god, dude.
I was gonna say something like, I don't remember what
Should have been like, what are you, fucking gay?
I was gonna say something like that. Oh, I forgot.
Some of this was like so inaccurate. Like, who says snuggle?
I know.
Oh my god. It was so
It was
beautiful.
funny though.
I know. Yo, hashtag Spudlum confirmed.